y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is going to be a top 10. On this top 10, we're going to discuss the top 10 independent wrestlers All Elite Wrestling should sign. Now a lot of people are going to do these top 10s, a lot of them are going to say obvious names like Kevin Owens, El Generico as I have on my shirt, or Dolph Ziggler. I wanted to kind of take this from a different route. Some maybe lesser known names, and some of these names you're going to know because they've done little things here and there. But these are people I think you can use to build your company and build stars instead of kind of borrowing stars from either Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact, or even WWE. These are people that I think you can put right in and you can build them and use them to build your company. That being said, starting off right, number 10, Effie. Now, if you're not familiar with Effie, he's kind of a controversial wrestler. He's done some things, probably his biggest thing that you may know of was wrestling the Bayley superfan Izzy. But here's where I think this is interesting. Not only is he a totally engaging person and a very nice human being, full disclosure, I work with a podcast called Live from the Armory, and we've had several of these people on as guests because we do specialize in independent wrestling, and a lot of these people I'm going to mention that we've spoke with, when we had Effie on, he was nothing but great. He was an amazing guest, one of my favorites, to be honest with you. And one of the main reasons I wanted to put him on here, other than the fact that he's an amazing wrestler, which standalone would have got him on the list, is he's out and proud as a LGBTQ wrestler. And I think we need, with a new company, with AEW going forward, trying to change the world, as they say, I think we need to have more LGBTQ wrestlers open and on the show and not portrayed as a stereotype. And I think that Effie is one of those people that breaks that ground, that is going to have that presence there. There's other wrestlers that could have been put in here that definitely deserve a look, but Effie is the one that comes to mind. Get him in there, and like I said, even without that, he's a fascinating person, and he has a magnetism that draws you into him, that makes you want to watch him wrestle, watch whatever he's doing. Coming from that, our number 9. You may know her as Blue Pants, but most of the independent wrestling world knows her as Leva Bates. Now, Leva, she has, much like I said with Effie, she brings another part of the culture in that has been kind of underrepresented in mainstream wrestling, and that is the cosplay aspects. Her dressing up as different characters from both wrestling and anime and video games, and bringing that in. There's a large amount of people, especially from my generation and younger generations, that are cosplayers, that go to conventions and dress up like Rick Grimes from Walking Dead, or go to a video game convention. Man, that was hard to say. And dress up as Mega Man, or Squall Lionheart, or any thousands of things that she's done. Another thing that I think is another great reason that I think that she would be an amazing ad, in addition to the fact that she's a great wrestler, is she has a Twitch channel. And she plays games on her Twitch channel, which again is another thing, especially for the younger generation, the so-called millennials, that they jump on, and there could be cross-promotion. Hey, see AEW star Leva Bates play Spider-Man, or see, and vice versa, Leva on her Twitch channel, which is very popular, could say, hey, I'm going to be wrestling Thursday night, tune in to watch. And some of her Twitch fans that may not know that she's a wrestler might come over there to check her out wrestling, which, again, cross promotion in this age, especially with how popular Twitch is, especially with how popular Letha is, I think can really help her and the company. And I think that's a great thing, in my opinion. That's something that they need to look for and need to do, and have their wrestlers more connected with the fans. Now, our number 8, we're going to continue a trend here. One of the things that they could do to make themselves stand out is emphasize on tag team wrestling. And in my opinion, the best independent tag team there is out there is the Dawson Brothers, Zane and Dave Dawson. And these guys, I think, are amazing. I think they're exactly what, if you close your eyes and think of like a throwback bruiser type team like Doom would have been, or the Skyscrapers, or even the Road Warriors, this is what you get in your head. And that's not a knock on them, and they're not acted set in the past. They're an updated version. They're a 2019 version of what that is. And these two guys, both of them, are actually really awesome single wrestlers as well. But when you put them together, it just works so great. And I think they're awesome. And matter of fact, I hope that if they do bring them in, they bring in their manager, George South, who was an underrated, underappreciated wrestler in his time. Also gives them ties to the George South Wrestling Academy, or George South Wrestling School. I know, George, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I'm probably saying it wrong. But you start getting those people in, because we see people that have come through that school. Guys like Caleb Conley, girls like Tessa Blanchard, Cedric Alexander, that are coming to the forefront, and we're starting to see how that talent is coming out of him. And if you could get an inroad to maybe get his talent all going to AEW, I think why not? And especially if you're going to build the tag division, I don't see a better tag team to use than that than the Dawson Brothers, and also bringing their manager, George South. Now, our number 7. We're going to need some name value. That's got to be a thing. And it's really something that they're going to need to push in. And one of the things that's a name value is a legacy wrestler. And the one I want to bring in here is Brian Pillman Jr. Now, instantly, to wrestling fans that are my age, the name Brian Pillman it means something. It's something important. And his son is carving his own path, and his son is taking what he did and modernizing it and changing it and making it something for a new generation to accept. And he's starting to really hit his stride, and I think he's a wrestler that's going to be a super megastar within the next few years. I mean, he's already carving out a niche in MLW where he's one of the main talents there. And I think the sky's the limit for him, and I think it would be a great idea for them to jump on that train. Not only do you have the name recognition of Brian Pillman, but you get to see the next generation of Pillmans. And much like the next generation of Rhodeses who started the company, we get to see a legacy wrestler carry the ball for his family. Now, speaking of carrying the ball, our number 6 is a wrestler I think that can carry the ball all the way, and that's Cam Carter. Here's a guy who isn't on a lot of radars. He got on some radars when they did the AML versus Impact show earlier in 2018, and some fans seen him and were blown away by him, but he's kind of a hidden gem in the independent world. He's not a guy that's talked about a lot like a Shane Strickland would be, or a Brian Cage would be, or even someone like Joey Ryan would be. But he's a guy that could fit in all those roles. He's a guy that has that talent. He's a supremely talented wrestler that's just waiting for the opportunity to be given that break to break him out and make him a major star. And I think Cam Carter is one of the situations where it's a buy low, but the ceiling is super high for him. The sky is the limit on this kid, and I think realistically, signing Cam Carter now we could have this generation's Jay Lethal. We could have this generation's, Paul London or someone of that nature, a big star, a big name. And I know Paul London wasn't a huge star, but he was a star. We could have someone like on the level of a Jerry Lynn or someone that could work in everything, whether you put him in the tag team division or if you do a juniors division where you want to make him your heavyweight champion. He can wrestle every style, and he's got a charisma that's innate to him that just pours through him that makes you want to watch him. And like I said, I think this is a buy low. You can get him at bargain basement prices, and he's going to pay back tenfold, in my opinion. Now, coming from that, our number 5 is another person that I think along that lines. And a lot of people have heard his name, especially with WWN and Evolve working with the WWE, and that's Darby Allen. He's a guy that Evolve has highlighted, the WWN network has highlighted as one of their future stars, and basically the main guy in the company now that Matt Riddle has left. I think he's another very interesting wrestler, very charismatic. He carries himself in a way that makes him a star. He has that different vibe about him that the WWE doesn't seem to go for. A character like his doesn't really work in the WWE often. However, we've seen in the past where a character like this would work in other places like WCW, ECW, even Impact has had where there are characters like Darby Allen that have gone on to be big stars within their company. And I think he could be a big star, much like I said with Cam Carter. He could fill any role, and he could easily carry your championship belt at any time. And he has that credibility already built in. Now, coming from that, we're going to go to our number 4. And I know I mentioned the Dawson Brothers being the best tag team on the independent scene. This is the most interesting, most entertaining tag team on the independent scene. And this isn't a knock on their talent, because they're both extremely talented. And that's the Gym Nasty Boys, White Mike, and Timmy Lou Retton. Now, if you're not familiar with these guys, you need to go follow the Twitter for the both of them individually and together. They put out some hilarious videos. They're, how can I say, somewhat a comedic act, but you got to take them seriously. They involve their comedy into the matches, and they're very, very talented at what they do. They're also really good wrestlers, and they can absolutely go when you get in the ring. And I think that's part of what's missing from the makeup of a lot of comedy wrestlers, is they're not that good once you put them in the ring. But these guys can handle it with, if they didn't have the gimmick they do, they would still be great wrestlers and they'd still be a great team. The gimmick they have is something that's going to be, when you, let's say you turn into AEW the first time and you see the Gym Nasty Boys on there, it's going to draw you in, and you're going to want to see what they do next, see what the Gym Nasty Boys' next move is going to be, what they're going to do, and what craziness they come up with next. And I think that's something that you need. You need that value. You need that entertainment. You need comedy in wrestling. Wrestling is like a play. You need all kinds of aspects. You need drama. You need highs, lows, comedy, sadness, despair, anger. You need to draw all of the emotions that you can out. And if you got a team that can draw joy and laughter out of people, that's going to bring people back to your product. And that's why I think that these guys would be a perfect fit. Now, coming off of that, our number 3. The top 3 on this really are people I have no idea why they haven't been signed yet. And a lot of this list is, to be honest with you. But these guys, really, it baffles me that no company has snatched them up yet. And number 3 is Schuyler. You may know him from being Ricky Roberts in the Elias Sampson skit a few months back. But I know John Schuyler as absolutely one of the top talents in independent wrestling. Again, he's another guy that's a utility knife that can be fit into any role. And we see with him doing the Ricky Roberts thing that he can do a little bit of comedy. He can be serious. He's an amazing talent when you put him in the ring. And he has, again, like I said, with a lot of these people, he has a magnetic personality that the first time you see him, you're going to be drawn to him and you're going to want to see more of him. You're going to want to see what he can do and how far he can go. I think that John Schuyler is one of the top wrestlers in the world. And I think that a company like All Elite Wrestling would be very smart to get in on this, and again, use him to build their fan base. You build John Schuyler while you're building the company. A lot of companies make the mistakes, and this is something that we've seen TNA/Impact make this mistake of using quote-unquote WWE throwaways. Now, I'm not saying you don't bring guys from WWE, and you absolutely do that, because that's going to bring their fans with them. But what you need to do is have a nice mixture. What made ECW different is for every time they brought in someone like Too Cold Scorpio that you may have known from somewhere else, or Terry Funk that you knew from somewhere else, or Cactus Jack that you knew from somewhere else, they had them wrestling with guys you didn't know, like Tommy Dreamer, or Sabu, or the Sandman, or the Public Enemy. And that's what you would do here. You would have John Schuyler wrestle, say, a Drew McIntyre if he comes in, or El Generico, Sami Zayn if he comes in, or Roderick Strong, or whoever it may be that decides to jump ship. Because inevitably, there is going to be talent that jumps ship. And while you're showing off that talent being on your show, you're also showing the fans, hey, look, we got this star over here that's on an equal playing ground that we build up, and we have several of those. And we could go forward with that. Now, coming off of that, my number 2. Another guy, much like I'm saying with John Schuyler, it baffles me that this guy hasn't been signed to a contract. I have no fucking clue. And I had to put the expletive in there because it is so mind-numbingly baffling that this guy isn't already in a WWE or Impact or Ring of Honor or anything, and that's Chip effing Day. What does Chip Day need to do to get on the radar of some of these companies? I really don't get it. If you've seen the guy wrestle, if you've heard him talk, if you've seen him do an interview, if you've seen a goddamn picture of him, you see that this guy is a star. He's got everything you would want in a wrestler. He's got a decent size. He's got a good build. Now granted, he's not built like Brian Cage is. He's not built like the Masterpiece Chris Masters. But he's got a build that's believable. He looks strong. He looks menacing. He can convey everything you would want a wrestler to convey, whether, again, like I said, whether it be bringing out all the emotions, sadness, joy, pain, pleasure, all of that. Chip Day can and has shown that he could do this and excel in a high-profile place. I don't know what the disconnect is between companies and signing this guy. And, again, much like I said when I said full disclosure, he's a guy that we've talked to on our podcast several times, and he's charming, he's intelligent, he's articulate, he's charismatic, he's generous with his time. I don't get it. I don't understand why Chip Day isn't a major star somewhere, but here's the opportunity for AEW to make him that star. Now, speaking of stars, before we get into our number 1, we do a little thing here on our top 10s called the best of the rest, where basically we give you a couple people that were considered for the list but kind of missed the list for whatever reason. First off, Kota Brazil, a.k.a. Snoop Strikes. Depending on where you've seen him wrestle, mostly I've seen him in the Florida independent scene. A lot of people might know his name from Major League Wrestling, MLW, and their YouTube shows, especially if you watch the War Games match, which I think was one of the better matches of 2018. Kota Brazil is that guy, and I call him Kota Brazil because that's what I first seen him as. He wrestles as both. Kota Brazil is that guy that can be your highlight of your X-style division and eventually build into a different kind of wrestler. He kind of reminds me a lot of Rich Swann. He reminds me somewhat of someone like a Brian Kendrick in a way. And he has that innovative talent about him where he's willing to try and do things that no one else has ever done in the ring. Kind of making him sort of stand out. And, he's got a personality, he's got a skill, and he's got a look and a vibe to him that I think he can be molded into a star. Now our next wrestler for the best of the rest, another legacy wrestler, another person that's tied into a legacy. And what bigger legacy is there than the Samoan dynasty? And that is Jacob Fatou. I didn't know much about Jacob Fatou besides hearing his name, but I got to catch him on a Game Changer Wrestling card, and I've seen other matches of him since then, and he blew me away. Because not only did you have him presented as a member of the family, but you also got to see, kind of like the Usos, an updated version of the Samoan gimmick. Kind of, more modern times, what a Samoan looks like now, and not as so much a stereotype like, say, the Head Shrinkers or the Islanders, or, all of the stereotypes they've used. And to me, he's another person that's got a star written all over him. He's got the family ties, he's got the talent, he's a bigger dude, and you're going to need some of those bigger dudes to be menacing, to be big, to be violent on your show. And I think he's a guy that you can tap into and put on your show and make a star again, like a lot of these people. And last but not least, for our best of the rest, we have Priscilla Kelly. Now, a lot of you may know her from her involvement in the Mae Young Classic earlier in 2018. A lot of you may have seen her wrestle in a lot of the big-name independent companies out there. And a lot of people are going to say that she's a knockoff version of Paige. While they're very similar, their style is similar, I do think that she's different enough that she has her own style about her too. Mainly the way that they dress and the fact that they're pale with darker hair. Kind of a gothic look to them. But I think Priscilla Kelly is someone that you can, again, bank on and you can make part of your women's division, which we know now in 2019, if you're going to start a wrestling company, you better have a strong women's division because the fans want to see a strong women's division. And here's another talent that you can put the belt on right away, and the fans are going to believe her, and they're going to jump on base with her. There's a lot of people, a lot of wrestling fans that look like Priscilla Kelly, that have the same style. Got to remember, and I don't want to generalize or make this seem like I'm knocking her. Got to remember, wrestling t-shirts are sold in Hot Topic along with gothic style dress and gothic style jewelry and gothic clothing. And I know Hot Topic is kind of the quote unquote poser store, but for people in Ames, Iowa, or some of these places that don't have bigger cities, Hot Topic is what they know of gothic. And if you have Priscilla Kelly, who looks like the people that work there, or looks like a girl that you would see at a local punk show, and you like punk rock music, or you just like the style, you're going to be drawn to her because there's someone that looks like you and someone that's from your style. Much like I said with Leva Bates, here's a girl that plays video games. You're going to be drawn to her because she's similar to you. And that's what I think you get with Priscilla Kelly, among the fact that she's a fantastic wrestler and she's very young, which means that you could have her be a highlight of your company for a number of years. Now, before we get into our number one, if you think I left someone off this list, if you think I put someone too low, someone too high, let me know what you think. Put it down here in the comments. Make sure to like and share. Finally, last but not least, our number one independent wrestler that AEW should sign, and that is Savannah Evans. Now, you're probably not familiar with Savannah Evans, and this may be a little bit of a homer pick. Again, like I said with our show Live from the Armory, she is a very much a friend of the show. She's stepped up and came in on couple-day notice and helped us cover for people that have not shown up, and not in a bad way, the people that had issues that couldn't do the show. She stepped in. She's been very gracious with her time. That all being said, taking that out so you know this is where I stand with her as a person, I don't think there's a better person in the world than Savannah Evans. Take that away. Put that aside. You have a supreme talent. You have a diamond in a rough. This is like finding a 20-carat diamond in a coal mine, ready to be picked up, and all you have to do is polish it a little bit, and you're going to start printing money, because she is that damn good. She is charismatic. She is magnetic. She can be vicious. She can be sweet. She can be kind. She can be everything you would want. She cuts a great promo, and she's only a few years into this. We're not talking about a 10-year project here. We're talking about someone that has very little time under her belt, and she's another wrestler that has gone through the George South Wrestling School. George, I'm going to say it at some point right in this show. And you can see all the people that come from him have that. They have that base in the fundamentals, and then they have everything else that needs to be built on. He gives them all the tools that they need. And Savannah, to her credit, has taken those tools, and every single time, I guarantee, do yourself a favor, Google her or look her up on YouTube, and once you're done this video, and watch a video of a match from a year ago, and then 6 months ago, and then closer to now. And then tell me you can't see her constantly evolving and getting better in just that short succession of time. To me, she is the evolution of what women's wrestling is going to be. And again, like I said with Priscilla Kelly, you're going to need strong women's division, and this could be the girl that takes your women's division and makes it the best women's division in America. With that being said, this is my opinion of the top 10 independent wrestlers I think All Elite Wrestling should sign. Again, if you think something different, let me know down here. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Ding the bell so you get notifications. Thank you for tuning in. My name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.